Begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Morning, everyone. Welcome to the Monday, August 29th meeting of the Board of County Commissioners. Madam Clerk, what's the first item, please? Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
First item is item 3, consent agenda.
There's one item.
Madam Chair, I'd move for approval of the consent items as presented.
It's a motion by Commissioner Cook.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Archer. All in favor say aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries 3-0.
Item 4, new business. A, County Clerk, number 1, consider all voucher payments.
Madam Chair, this morning we have one voucher report dated August 26, 2016. Total amount $7,610,848.72. Significant items, there are two. One is payroll expenses of $497,000, and the other is debt service of $5.7 million. And may want to have Betty, if you want to discuss our debt service payment. That's a 1 year, once a year payment.
Yes. Betty Griner, Director of Administrative Services. Yes, this is our one payment, principal payment of the year on our general obligation bonds, and then the interest for half a year. We pay interest twice a year, and the principal is just paid once a year. This is on the general obligation bonds. On the next vouchers, you will see the same debt service, but for the COPs.
Okay. Very good. Thank you, Betty.
You had given us notice that it was coming, and sure enough, it's here. So
Yeah.
thank you.
So I'll move to approve, Madam Chair.
It's a motion by Commissioner Archer.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Cook. All in favor say aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries 3-0.
Item A2, consider correction orders.
I'll move approval.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Archer. All in favor say aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries 3-0.
Item B, administrative services, number 1, consider approval of request from District Court for $175,000 for the purpose of completing remodeling for the large courtroom in room 403.
Good morning again. Betty Griner, Director of Administrative Services. This item has two parts to it. The first part it was a request from Judge Wilson for an additional $175,000 for the renovation of the large courtroom room 403. The second part is if you would desire to approve that, my recommendation of where the funding would come from. Judge Wilson and Chuck Heidevitz is here to answer any questions that you might have on the courtroom remodel.
Thank you, Betty. Questions or comments? Or do you want to go ahead? Sorry.
Good morning. I'm Evelyn Wilson, Chief Judge of the 3rd Judicial District, State of Kansas. When we began this project, we asked for capital outlay funds in an amount that of $150,000 based on really a guess. We thought that this was something that the courthouse needed for us to have a 21st century courtroom that is ADA compliant. And so we set out on that journey and realized that we had drastically underestimated how much it would cost. Once we had an architect, some RFPs, and a builder, we began having meetings, and the cost actually for the courtroom ended up being around $425,000. So we had more and more meetings, and we started making cuts, but got down to where we really felt like this is what we need. And so we are $175,000 short. We're down to about $325,000. So we are asking that you all approve that expenditure so that we can do that. And I think we'll have a courtroom that is one of which we can be proud, that will serve the county for years to come, and we'll have those things that we really need in order to have courtroom of today.
Judge Wilson, if you could go back just a little bit, because it's been maybe a year and a half, 2 years, when there was an extensive review of all the courtrooms in the courthouse. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yes, we had the National Center for State Courts who came and did an in-depth analysis of what we have and what we need in order to become ADA compliant, in order to have courtrooms that really take into consideration how cases are presented today in an effective and efficient way. And they looked at small courtrooms, large courtrooms, and helped us to come up with a plan that would help us to do that over a period of time. And this is step one. We're hoping to make this a template for what might be needed in the future, so those we're trying to be as cost effective as we can. For example, just the carpet itself is something that we have great need to change, and so we're looking at getting carpet squares that can easily be replaced, and that everybody has the same color. That's just one easy example.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have anything to add? Okay. Any questions?
No.
Is there a motion, or Ashley, do you have anything more, Becky?
Would you like me to go ahead and cover the funding now?
Sure.
I think they kind of go hand in hand.
Yeah. I guess so.
If this is something you desire to approve, my recommendation for funding would be to transfer money that we received from a clawback in March. This was not budgeted for this year because of the uncertainty of it. So this is additional money that was not budgeted for. I would suggest that we transfer that to the capital outlay fund and then designate $175,000 of those funds to go to this courtroom renovation.
Is there a special project fund then that will be
Yes.
established for this?
There's one that's
purpose?
already established for this that
But it
we
will be-
transferred the money into prior to this, for the first approval that was received. So it would go into that same project fund.
Okay. And would that then be the same for the other courtrooms that I know will come before us at some point in time? Or are we gonna have separate accounts for each
I think we could
improvement?
keep the same project fund. It's my understanding, though, that this would probably all be spent on this one courtroom. I don't know that there would be any carryover, but we could
Okay.
use the same project fund for future projects.
Okay. Thank you, Benny. Any questions?
No. Madam Chair, at this time, I would move that we recommend, as recommended,
Mhm.
transfer the clawback revenues received in March 2016 from the general fund to the capital outlay fund, and then designate $175,000 from capital outlay for courtroom remodel as a special designated fund.
There's a motion by Commissioner Cook,
Second.
second by Commissioner Archer. Anyone wanting to speak on this item? All those in favor say aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries 3-0.
Item B2, consider approval of resolution number 2016-59, updating the petty cash and cash drawers.
This resolution, this is just to remove the cash drawer and the petty cash that was for the community health center that we no longer have. This is just to update the resolution to remove those from our county resolution.
I'll move to adopt the resolution.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Archer. All in favor say aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries 3-0. Thank you, Betty.
Item C, Sheriff's Office, number 1, consider approval and execution of contract C-251 with 2016 with Net Motion for annual maintenance of firewall software for a period of November 1st, 2016 to October 31st, 2018, at a cost of $10,406 from the 2016 budget funds.
Morning, Commissioners. Lance Royer with the Sheriff's Office. This software is what we use that's in between our air cars that are out on patrol calls, or all the laptops that are out in the patrol cars. This is what we use to protect our county network. This software acts as a firewall in between that and our networks.
Move to approve the contract.
So motion by Commissioner Archer.
Is it move to approve or move to acknowledge?
Well, it's a contract.
So,
Says execution.
Yeah. Is there a second?
a second.
Second by Commissioner Cook. All in favor say aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries 3-0.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Item D, Public Works Solid Waste. Number 1, update on the Willard Bridge project.
Good morning, Commissioner. Tom Block with Public Works and Solid Waste. This, of course, is a Public Works item. I'm here to give you an update on the Willard Bridge project to date and the construction. Some of the things I will cover may be old information to you, but in case anyone's listening in for the first time, just to give them a little update on where we've been and how we've gotten to where we are. Overall, I guess before I even start, overall things are going very well, in my opinion. As far as construction is concerned, we took bids back in December, on December 18th. The low bid again was submitted by A.M. Coron and Son Incorporated for the total amount of $16,028,553.93. And as you may recall, the timing of the bid was such that we got bids about $4 million under what our construction estimate was. So we believe we timed that about as good as we could have. We got an excellent price on steel right before the bid, which cuts the bid price by about $2.5 million, probably 10 minutes before the bid. So that really helped the construction cost. The construction began on January 25th of this year. And I want to just reiterate, we had several partners along the way that have gotten us to this. And without these partners, we wouldn't be where we are right now. Wabunsee County, they are going to share in the cost of this. We executed an agreement with them, cost-sharing basis. When you have a project like this that is on a county line, you share the cost based on a direct percentage or split of county's taxable value or valuation. So they're paying about 4.5%, and Shawnee County about 95.5%. The City of Topeka, in their local agreement, which was signed on April 25th of this year, that is for the sales tax extension. And that is, we're going to be using funding from that to help pay back what we did with KDOT. And KDOT offered us an $8.5 million no-interest loan agreement that was signed on April 29th. That is going to be paid back over 10 years, of which the proceeds to pay for that is going to come from the sales tax extension of the interlocal agreement with the City of Topeka. And also Union Pacific Railroad, they worked with us very closely to get them to give us the agreement to be able to cross their tracks. That's very protected property, as you can imagine. So they worked with us to get their approval to go ahead with the project. And also several property owners from which we had to acquire right away. We didn't really have too many issues at all with the acquisition of right away, and we are very appreciative of them for working with us. As far as the funding plan is concerned, our total project costs for design, construction administration, right of way, utility relocation is $18,840,343. $2.5 million of that came from our special highway funds from our current 2004 sales tax program, and this basically paid for preliminary costs such as design, right-of-way, and utility. So these monies were expended prior to us ever getting to construction. Again, the $8.5 million loan from KDOT is helping us fund current construction. The way it works now is when a contractor submits an invoice, we will turn that around, submit it to KDOT, and they've been very good about reimbursing us within a week or two so that we can get the contractor paid. So that's been working very well. Well, Wabunsee County share is going to be about $885,000. It's based on our current estimates. Of course, we'll have to wait till all final costs are in, but that's what we're looking at about right now. And then the excess sales tax, as you recall, this commission had approved, to use any excess monies that we are anticipating from the current sales tax, which right now is about $7 million. And our latest estimates are that is probably right on track. And then now I'm just going to show you a bunch of different photographs of the construction from the very beginning of the project. This was the first thing that we had our contractor do with the condition of the existing bridge. We went and had them build what we call cribbing. And this supported, as you may recall, there were some floor beams on the existing bridge that we were mainly concerned with. This cribbing, essentially what it has done is it supports those floor beams and transfers the loads that normally would go to that floor beam down to the foundation. So it basically redirects where that loading, the traffic loading is going. So this is the first thing we had them do. It provides additional support to the existing bridge, gives us much more comfort level that the existing bridge will be fine throughout the construction and the opening of the new bridge. Now, the first thing the contractor, in order to get out into the river, they have to build what's called a causeway, and essentially it's just building a sand road from the bank out to the middle of the river. And when the water is low, it's something that's fairly easily done. When the water rises, it can easily be washed out. So that's one reason why we wanted to get the project bid in December and started in January, because when the water would be low, chances for spring rains or heavy rains that time of year would be very minimal, and the ability to get out into the river for a lengthy period of time to build the shafts or the pier foundations is best in the wintertime. That picture off the right just shows you, on the right side of the photograph shows you what the causeway looks like on the north side of the river. And this is just another view with the crane out in the middle of the river on that causeway. Again, just another view. This photograph here is a little bit blurry, but this just shows a worker building what's called a rebar cage for the concrete shafts, which will be drilled and they will be placed in an encasement that go down into the river to support the bridge piers. This is a finished version of the rebar cages. And here in a minute, this is the contractor actually drilling the shaft in the middle of the river. It's just a big drill, and they're drilling down into the bottom of the river. There are 28 total shafts like this, and they are 8 foot in diameter, and they go 65 feet deep. So they drill 65 feet deep, and they go 10 feet into bedrock. So there are 28 of these. There will be 14 piers, and there's 2 of these for each pier. And each one of these takes 120 cubic yards of concrete. So they build the causeway, they bring their equipment out to the middle of the river, and then they drill down into bedrock at 65 feet. And they did it 28 times. And we had to do this all, hopefully, before heavy rains came. This is one of those steel casings, and when they get it drilled, then they take a steel casing and they place it down in the river. You can see the size of that. If you compare off to the left, there's a loader there, and it gives you some idea. There's the loader, and you know how big a loader is. It gives you some idea of how big these casings are. Those will get placed down into the drilled shafts, down into the bedrock of the river. And here's one of those rebar cages that we were showing the gentleman was working on. Once the casing is in place, then this gets placed down inside that casing, and we will ultimately then will fill that all up with concrete. And this is the truck they use to fill those holes with concrete, just a concrete pumper truck. Concrete truck backs up to this, they just pour it into the hopper, and then it just is pumped up through some hoses, and then down into the drilled shaft. This is essentially what it looks like when it's done. You see it's very fluid concrete that will set up, but when they fill it up, this is the concrete cage sticking up, and it's concrete rebar all the way down to 65 feet, 10 feet into bedrock. This is the forming of a pier on the north end of the bridge. Here and here are two of the drilled shafts where you're showing. So then they build the piers supported by these shafts, these concrete shafts. So these are basically the pier walls. And if you notice, there's some more rebar sticking up through here. So they're basically going to extend these side columns, I guess, for lack of a better term. They'll put those directly on top of the shafts, and then in between will be a concrete wall. And this is what the finished product looks like. Here's the top of those concrete shafts that we drilled into the riverbed, and then this is what they were just forming up, and that's what it looks like after it's completed. And then there will be what's called a pier cap that's been poured on top of that. This is just a side view of one of the piers. Again, this is just looking north from the south side. Here's that pier again. There's the causeway where it's looking across the river there. Another view of some more piers, some more progress. There's one that's completed. There's one that's under construction. This is still the north causeway. As you can see here, they leave a little space in there for the river to continue flowing through. There's a south causeway that was constructed here to get piers more on the south side of the river, with the shaft, the concrete shaft constructed there. But they do have to force them to leave a little way opening for the river to flow through during construction. This is just a photograph of when they started to get ready to form and build the cap of the pier. And this is another photograph here. They built themselves a platform, give the workers some space to then put in the rebar and get ready for and pour the cap of the pier. And this is just basically the cap of the photograph of the cap that has been poured. Here we have a better photograph of the south causeway. You can see two more concrete drilled shafts there in the middle of the river from the south side. And then this is when the May flooding came. We see here we had 3 of the piers out in the river completed. There were more to the north outside the river that had been worked on and constructed, but this is when the May flooding came. And you can see our causeway is no longer visible here. Fortunately, our contractor had essentially nearly all the concrete shafts already drilled by the time this had come. I think there were 2 right out in the middle of the river they hadn't gotten to, but they made provisions in anticipation, because typically it's not if it ever floods, it's when it's going to flood. And they made provisions to protect their causeway as much as possible for the floods did come. They didn't completely get washed away. Unfortunately, in this case, a lot of that was intact when the water came back down, and they were able to just restore it without disturbing the river anymore. So they did a great job in anticipating what might happen and made preparations for it, which really helped out in the end. Again, here's more flooding. You see there's high water. He said, we don't know if it really flooded there, but you see you can't see our causeway, and our pier caps are basically all covered up. This is when the water is starting to recede. Now we can see the pier caps again. You can see a little bit of their causeway is still intact, which is a good thing. If that had all been gone, they would not have been able to get back out to the river until, I think, this Wednesday, August 31st. Some more photographs as the water is receding. And when this was going on, they spent a lot of time working on the north end outside the river. This is just a photograph of how they accomplished pouring a shaft that was right adjacent to the railroad and having to go over the railroad. The railroad provides someone on site every day so that when a train is coming, they keep in communication to let everyone know there's a train coming, you know, if there's any construction going on, we gotta get out of the way until the train passes. Fortunately, there's not a ton of train traffic in this area right now. I think, when this new bridge is constructed, it's gonna provide units of the railroad, tremendous capability to expand. I don't know if they have any plans for that, but they will have tremendous capability to do that. And I would anticipate if that is the case, then you would see a lot more train traffic coming through this region. Again, this is what's called Unit 3. I guess this bridge is broken into 3 different units called Unit 1, 2, and 3. Unit 1 is essentially like the south 25% of the bridge. Unit 2 is like the middle 50% of the bridge that spans the river. And Unit 3 is the north, essentially 25%. So this is the north unit, and this is the piers that were built essentially outside of the river on the north side. Again, same thing, just looking in different directions. Same thing now, looking north. And looking south one more time. And you can see in this photograph, there's a lot more piers that have been constructed by this time. Now, this photograph just shows you the north abutment or north fill that's having to go on. In addition to just the piers, we have to bring in a lot of earth material to build up the abutment. So this is where our roadway is going to end up coming through when it's all said and done. So the contractor worked with the local property owner, farmer, and was able to, actually 2 of them in the area, worked out an agreement to get their earth and fill from their property. One property on the north side and another property on the south side, so they cannot use our bridge, the existing bridge, for construction. So they have to bring all of the earth and fill off the north abutment from the north side of the river, and all of the earth on the south side from the south side of the river. This is just another photograph of them forming and capping a pier. And this is just a photograph of delivery of one of the concrete beams. The concrete beams were being placed on the north Unit 3. Gives you a little idea of how long these bridges are, these beams are. There was some challenge of what roadways to get these to the site. Just due to having to turn, and these vehicles actually, you can turn this back end separately from the front end, so there's a way to maneuver it. But that, just getting them to the site can be quite a challenge.
And again, the same thing, you had to come from south and north, so because you couldn't take them across the bridge, so.
And actually, there are only gonna be, concrete beams on the north end.
On the north
Yeah.
end?
When we did design, we had design done, we did a value engineering, went through a value engineering process, and originally the bridge was to be constructed of all steel beams. And as part of that value engineering, and I'm not smart enough to know why, but as part of that value engineering, and essentially what the value engineering process is, you get experts in the field and they have value engineering teams, and so I think it was 4 structural engineers from different, very prominent structural firms that take a look at your plans in quite detail and make recommendations on where you might be able to save money. And one of the recommendations they made was to change Unit 3, the north end, from steel to concrete beams. So we'll have steel beams in Units 1 and 2 go over the railroad and over the river, but they felt it was going to be much more cost effective to put in concrete beams on the north end. And if I recall, it was going to be a savings of $250,000 in doing that. So we will only have concrete beams on the north end. But again, this just shows you they're starting to place concrete beams. This is after several have been placed. And this is just a little bit different angle of the concrete beams you place on the north end. And now they're starting to form the deck for the north end in between the concrete beams. And And I have a few more photographs of this that just came in this morning to us, but I will get to those here in just a minute. As far as project progress is concerned, contract time that's been used to date has been 30%. The work completed has been 38%. So that's really good. We're 8% ahead. As far as project is concerned regarding time and work completed. As I mentioned before, there's 28 pier shafts. Those that were drilled into the river. This is for 14 piers and caps in the north bridge abutment. Those are all the things that have been completed. Expenditure so far, the amount paid and the amount yet owed. Design-wise, we spent $841,000. We have fully paid that out. Construction, we have paid out $5.4 million, and we have $10.6 million yet to pay. Construction engineering services, $215,000, with about $1.6 million yet to pay. Right of way, paid $120,000. We are complete with that. The miscellaneous, that included like value engineering and things of that nature. $46,000, and we should be fully paid out anything miscellaneous. As far as upcoming work, the decking on the north section of Unit 3, that should be beginning to be poured in the middle of September. And the delivery and installation of the steel beams, Units 1 and 2, we anticipate receiving those beginning in late September, and that will continue all through the winter.
Tom, I have a question on that. So will those come I-70 or will they come 24? So that, you said they're not on the north side, but they're in the middle and the south.
I think they're going to be,
70.
come from 70.
Because they're larger even than the
Yes.
concrete beams.
The buildings are over 125 feet long.
Okay.
So, you can imagine trying to turn a corner with one of those behind you. That's pretty difficult.
No, I know the one corner they were turning the concrete beams on in Rossville. It was tight.
Yeah, I
So,
know they had to
okay,
work
they're
out an
going
agreement with one of the local business owners there
Right.
to allow the back end to come through the parking lot to make that turn off of
Yeah.
Highway 24. Those are things that, they go into these projects knowing they're gonna have to figure them out, and not necessarily knowing what they're gonna do when they get the bid. Same with the dirt that they
Yeah.
bring into the abutments. I don't think they didn't know who they were gonna be working with. They go and they find someone, and, then we have to go and test the soil to make sure it's proper, has this proper soil characteristics. Essentially what happens is these property owners get nice ponds built for them. That's really kind of what happens.
Did they get the dirt?
And then construction again, as I mentioned, we're a little bit ahead of schedule, but you never know when things might happen, but the whole project should be completed by December of next year. And we, knock on wood, if everything goes according to plan, that we'll be able to make that. And quite honestly, this project, in our opinion, Mr. Flanagan and myself, and Mr. Flanagan is going to managing the project on behalf of the county. Really, knock on wood, could not have gone any better to date. It really could not have. Our contractor's been wonderful. Our consultant's been wonderful. Everything's gone really well. Even the rain in May, we were far enough ahead, and the rain in May didn't really affect us. A little bit, but they had other work that they could do in the interim until the water went down. So I'm extremely pleased with how it's going so far, and hopefully it just continues. We have no reason. There have been no change orders to date. We don't anticipate one, but sometimes you just never know. But with them being out of the river is quite a big deal, because weather really doesn't affect you that much anymore, which is pretty comforting to know. When it might slow them down for a day or two or something, but for the most part, there won't be any long-lasting effects. When you have lots of rain and you're working with, unless we were to get a bunch of rain next summer when they're trying to build the roadway, that could be one thing that could really slow them down. Because when you're working with soil and then rain makes it muddy, you won't have a good road base. So that could be the one thing that really could potentially hinder them as we move forward. before we get to questions, I'm going to show you the latest and greatest photograph. I have 4 more photographs that came in just this morning, actually, before we came down. It shows you, this is more decking of the Unit 3, the north end. You can see there's quite a bit of decking that's been done. This is what's going to be poured here in a couple of weeks. Let's see here if I can get the other ones, the 4 of them. This is them just forming with their rebar on that deck. Shows you how much steel is actually in these bridges. That is quite a bit. Another photograph, same thing. And these numbers, the 38%, the 30% did not include those photographs. So they probably had a little bit more progress since 38%. And then that's just another overall view of that north end of the bridge. So with that, now myself or Mr. Flanagan are here to answer any questions you may have.
Thanks, Tom. Questions from the commission? Yes.
Tom, this bridge project really got kicked up with the ratings, with the deterioration of the old bridge. What is the current state of the old bridge?
We continue to do the weekly inspections. So the state of the bridge is the same as it was when we started this project. You know, it still has that low rating. The loading, the weight limits have still been very reduced to prohibit basically anything more than vehicles or pickups from crossing it. But there's really been no change in that status. It's still safe to cross. But with that additional cribbing, it gives us more comfort. And we're still doing the weekly inspection, so really no change, except that we have additional support from before the project started.
Well, as John Knight can tell you, every golfer thinks that they're an expert and can tell you how to better run a golf course, and every car owner tells you that they know how to build bridges and they're an expert. Regardless of the cribbing, we've still had a design flaw with the current bridge, and it had to be replaced even without the cribbing. With the pin, with the pin system, and
yeah, I guess as I understand it, when it was built back in the 50s, it had a concrete deck, and over time it was determined that that concrete deck, the loadings of concrete put on the bridge were more than what it should have been. That's why I think in the 80s they took that concrete deck off and put the steel grate deck on because it was lighter weight. So I think that's probably a fair statement.
but even with the, I guess my point is, even with the cribbing, even this is not a permanent fix.
No, not, by no means, by no stretch of the imagination is that a permanent fix, by no means.
And even with, and I just to let you know, even with the current building of the bridge, there are still going to be people who question whether or not we had to replace the bridge at all, and it really...
There is no doubt in my mind. The other thing to keep in mind, too, is with the old bridge, it was in need of having to be repainted. And that bridge has lead paint on it. And if you want to repaint a bridge with lead paint, you have to sandblast it off. And you can't let the paint and the sand just drop into the river due to the lead. So you have to encapsulate it and have like a vacuum encapsulation around it. And our estimates to do that were anywhere from $3.5 million to $5 million to repaint the bridge. So our opinion was that would have been just a complete waste of money. Because we're getting a whole new bridge that we're thinking would last 100 years for three and a half times what it would cost just to repaint a bridge that was already structurally deficient, that was already functionally obsolete, I mean, not wide enough for like agricultural equipment. And, you know, back in the 50s, semi-trucks and farm equipment were not the same size as they are today. And so the actual physical attributes to this bridge aren't current either. So no, this bridge had to be replaced. there's no doubt.
And then, Tom, can you talk to us a little bit just about the old bridge, what's gonna happen to it when we complete the new bridge?
Well, when the new bridge is open and traffic is, well, I think they'll drop it. They're gonna implode it and they'll drop it into the river. And then they'll scrap it. They'll scrap iron that, there's probably quite a bit of money in that scrap iron from that bridge. So I anticipate right before we open the new bridge to traffic, they will implode it and drop the old one into the river, and then they'll open up the new bridge, and while the new bridge is being opened and traffic is on it, they'll just be pulling that out of the river.
We still have to protect that the lead paint doesn't get in the river, though.
Well, right, but it's still going to be on the steel frame. When you blast it and it becomes particles, that's when you really have to encapsulate it. But just dropping in the river is not too big of an environmental concern.
And that's why you're the engineer and I'm the commissioner. Thank you.
Commissioner Archer.
I don't have
any
anything. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Tom, just to note, these pictures, all of the progress on the bridge is on the Public Works website. I know it's really difficult when you're going across the bridge. You really can't see the progress that's been made. So don't stop your car and get out. But go to the Shawnee County website, and all the pictures are there from the very beginning until probably get these loaded up.
One of these
today.
photographs, let me show you. Yeah, and you're right.
It's so close.
This bridge, the profile of this bridge is actually quite a bit lower than the existing bridge.
And I have been asked some questions about that, so can you?
So you can see, here's the existing bridge.
Right.
And there's the profile, elevation of the new bridge. And this would actually even be lower, except we had to go over the railroad. We have to have a certain clearance of the railroad. So we go up and over the railroad, and then we just basically start coming downhill from there. I'm not exactly sure why this was built this high back then, but, so yeah, if you drive across this bridge, you may not even see what's going on. In fact, you wouldn't see
You don't really.
what's going on
It's
down
from the
below.
ends.
So I know we were well into construction, and we had people asking us when we were gonna get started. Because you just can't see what's going on, but yes, the profile of this bridge will be, so if you're scared of heights, this will be an improvement too.
Well, I don't have any questions, just appreciate the update and excellent project management, of course, again, from Mr. Flanagan and Mr. Block, so very much appreciated. Very much appreciated.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item, please.
Administrative communications.
Good morning,
Morning, Jeff.
Commissioners. Jeff Shabine, Kansas Expo Center. Just want to say we had a great weekend. A lot of visitors were in for both the Capital City Circuit Dog Show and the Cowboy Dressage Horse Show. There was over 40 states and countries, Canada, that were here for the dog show. So it was pretty good, and about 10 states for the horse show. I met some people from Georgia that were up here, so that's what happened last week. A lot of visitors.
Good deal.
Thank you.
Anyone else for administrative communications? Commissioners, do you have anything? No? Just to bring you up to date, the National Park Service was here last week. They unveiled their concept plans for the Riverfront Park, actually the National Trails piece of it. So I know that they will be then working on a complete report back. I think it's they said maybe 8 months actually before that's all back to this community and to the partners that were involved. So that was unveiled on Friday, and I don't know, John, I don't know if that's on a website on Heartland Visionings or the park.
If it's not, we'll get it.
Okay, that'd be good. All right, I don't have anything else. Next item, please.
Item 6, executive session.
I do not believe there is a need, so
We
we
do.
do have a work session, yes. The demonstration from Parks and Recreation beginning at 10 o'clock for the cartograph. So we are adjourned.